Hey fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. Thanks to you followers on Instagram, Tennis Nerd Insta, I get some tips sometimes about string tensions, rackets and all that stuff. So thanks to Emre and Paul for sending some screenshots of Halle stringing sheets. I hope the players don't get too pissed that I share this, but it's quite interesting and it's something we can learn from it, and that's why I do it. And I've done a few videos about pro player string tensions before, and I do get a lot of questions about strings and what tension should I use and so on. I know a lot of you have questions, but I can't manage to answer them all. And I have so much other stuff to do. So it's a little bit tricky, but I'll try my best to find a solution to it. Not many player specs revealed on this sheet. I don't know why there were player specs on it. We had Holger Rune, Christopher O'Connell, and Xavier Malisse on the sheet. Malisse is a coach. The other two are active players. Holger Rune very much in the spotlight now with his great run at the French Open, and he also won his first ATP tournament in Munich this year. If we look at the RUNE'S specs, for example, they were quite a bit heavier than I expected, like 320 grams, 33.4 centimeter balance, and 320 swing weight, and this is unstrung. Could equally be strung specs for a recreational racket, but if you look at the other rackets, it's actually seems to be unstrung. So he's using a quite heavy spec. If you would add strings, he strings with RPM Blast, it would be around 335 grams, a little bit more than that, 34.5 centimeter balance, so it's actually a tiny bit head heavy, and 350-ish strung swing weight, so it's quite a heavy frame. So it's quite different from what Alcaraz reportedly uses. I don't know 100% what he uses, but what I heard from everyone is that he's using a lighter spec, and that's also what Babolat has confirmed, and usually they're not so shy with giving out the specification of Nadal and the team's frames, for example. Malisse is a pretty interesting racket as a coach. Very low swing weight for a pro. Obviously, he's not an active pro. And quite an interesting choice of strings, like Wilson synthetic, it seems to be. And that's very rare to see among coaches and among pros. But it's what he uses and it works for him. It shows how personal racket specifications and frames are. Chris O'Connell, he uses the Wilson H22, which is a pro stock, now called the Blade Pro. The same mold, 320 grams unstrung, 32.9 centimeter balance, and a 313 swing weight. So add 30 swing weight points for strings, add around 15 to 20 grams of weight, and put the balance point 1 centimeter up, and you have quite a heavy frame, pretty typical H22 balance of that one. But if we look at the string sheet, we have Aslan Karatsev, a guy I really like to watch, has this really whippy and fast-paced style and can hit so hard and really trouble the top guys in the world on a good day. He uses head hawk, and it doesn't say gauge, which is a bit of a shame, but I would predict it's 125 or 130. Few pros use 120 gauge, so it's either 125, 130 usually. 24 kilo mains and 23 kilo crosses, and the reason they sometimes string the crosses lower is to allow more string movement from the mains, so that to have more snapback and more spin potential. That's at least what they're aiming for. And you see some of these in the sheet actually do that. Aslan uses the PT57A, the Head Pro Tour Pro Stock. I talked about that in the previous video. Please search and please look at my older videos as well. That helps the channel, so I really appreciate it. Ilya Ivashka uses the same model, other specifications I'm sure. Strings also relatively high for such a control-oriented racket. All the power rough, 25 and 24 kilos. So pretty similar control string, and trying to get max control. These guys hit hard, they need the control. So I think this sheet will tell you how personal specifications are, and it's not easy to copy another player. You need to find what works for you. You see a lot of Luxlon strings, that's pretty common. It's the most popular string brand on the market, and they were early, so I think people got used to Luxlon strings and heard from others that Luxlon strings are good and used them. There are many choices of strings these days that are very good, as you might see in my string reviews. But Luxlon strings are obviously excellent as well, and a choice of many ATP pros and WTA pros. We also have Bautista Agut using another Luxlon Big Bagger Original 130, which is a pretty stiff and control-oriented string, but he strings it low in his Wilson 6195, which is slightly extended. I did play with Bautista Agut's racket in Marbella recently. So he strings it 20 kilos, which I thought for grass courts, I mean, this is Halle on grass, is a bit low for these guys, but they seem to be able to control it. I think they time the ball really well. They hit with enough topspin. That's what we regular players struggle with, of course. So it works for them. And that dead string, the low tension in a pretty control-oriented racket seems to work for him. I also found it interesting if you look at the other scale that a guy like Austin Krajicek, it's not Richard Krajicek's son, it's his distant cousin. He uses an Aero Pro drive. I don't know the specifications, but with a Solinco string, I would guess Tourbite or something like that at 42 and 44 pounds. So that's a little bit looser and more like towards a Manarino style tension. I made a video about Manarino string tension, which is exceptionally low. Please look at that on this channel. So another low tension for a powerful racket, but then we have Maxime Cressy, who's using a similar racket, a Pure Aero from 2016. He uses Solinco Tourbite, but he strings it much higher. That suits his serve and volley game better, and it's all a personal preference really at the end. So he strings it at 54 pounds to improve control for his game. Otherwise, really nothing that noteworthy on this sheet. Christian Garin, he uses Big Banger Original, as do many here. I think that's kind of what they got used to, and it's also very control-oriented. 21 kilos in his Radical Pro stock. You can search the tennisnerd.net for more info on his racket. There are still some gut hybrids. Like it's quite popular among pros that they string a hybrid with gut on either the mains and the crosses, and a more control-oriented polyester string in the other main or crosses. So that's a thing to get a combination of both strings of the string. Like the gut is more powerful and more arm-friendly, softer, creates a nice feel, kills some of the launch angle that polys can give you as well, while the stiffer string, the polyester, will give you better control and give you a bit more spin potential. So it's a very common thing to have a hybrid. I mean, Federer, Djokovic, Murray, they all use hybrid setups for this reason with natural gut. Dustin Brown wins the tennis elbow contest, of if there was one. He uses Big Banger Original, another user of that. 34 kilos in his E-Zone, which I think is an E-Zone 100 of some kind, which is a decent claim for the highest poly tension on tour. 34 kilos, that's something where the whole racket becomes a board, especially on these stiffer rackets. But he likes it, works for him. And it's becoming increasingly rare to see these high tensions going above 25 kilos or 55 pounds if you want to convert it. Talented Czech Leheshka, he's using 27.5 kilos for the mains and 25.5 kilos for the crosses with all the power. So there are some players stringing above 25 kilos, 55 pounds, but it's pretty rare. You're seeing a lot of them go below. Sometimes they want to go like to even 37 pounds or something like that. So trying to go below the 20 kilo mark. But as you can see in this sheet, there's a lot of variance, a lot of Luxlon, obviously. Most people seem to string around 21, 22, 23 kilos. That seems to be the thing. People are around 50 pounds usually. I use 50 pounds or 22.5 kilos. If you convert it as my reference tension, I think it's a good point to start. Sometimes I like to go lower, sometimes I like to go higher, depending on the racket and the conditions and so on. But it's my kind of starting tension. I would have thought that grass courts being so fast and control-oriented would require them to go up a bit in tension, but I think I saw enough low tensions on this sheet, which surprised me a bit. But maybe they don't change that much going from hard courts or even from clay to grass. But there should be some changes, considering the bounce, how the ball travels through the air, the conditions being different and so on. You can definitely tweak your equipment to suit the surface and the conditions you're playing on. The more you know, the more you can use that information for your game. I want to thank Fuzzy Yellow Balls for sponsoring this video with their singles playbook. There's also a doubles one, how you can learn strategy and tactics in your tennis, how to beat pushers, how to beat serve and volleyers, aggressive baseliners. You get a lot of different plays you can use. It will develop your repertoire of strokes and ideas you can use on a tennis court. Definitely worth checking out. I really like this book. I bought it myself. I was happy that they decided to sponsor this channel about a year later than I bought it, but it comes with videos. Everywhere you see a QR code, you can access a video where you get the full instruction, how you can use this play and how it can help you win more points and matches. Also thanks to my affiliates, the links are in the description, such as Play Your Court, where you can find a hitting partner or a coach using their platform, 50% off with their link. Have a nice day now, and don't forget to play some tennis.